Tom Brady leaving the Patriots, going to the Buccaneers. I figured we'll just start here and then get into our breakdowns of individual teams. You're Patriots fans. What are you're a Patriots fan. What is your initial thoughts?
Yeah, internally crying. No, obviously, there's a lot to unpack with this one. It makes a lot of sense for Brady in his perspective. He's going to go to a team where he's going to throw to two of the best 10 receivers in football, essentially. And at that point, if you're going to have that kind of weaponry to throw to, why do you not take this deal? I think there are going to be some things that they're going to have to adjust. I think the whole thing about the Patriots only dink and dunk, and they act like the Patriots only throw to 5-yard passes and the Buccaneers only throw 50-yard passes, which is kind of blown out of proportion. I think the Buccaneers, I think I saw, were the best team from 10 to 20 yards passing last season, and that's where Brady is typically the best quarterback in football. The only difference is, to me, is that a lot of what the Buccaneers do is they run deep routes to open up the 15 to 20-yard routes, whereas the Patriots run short routes and try to hit you over the top with those 15 to 20-yard routes. So I think it's going to be a lot of schematic changes that are going to have more crossing routes, but, you got size in Godwin, you got size in Evans. If they bring back Perriman, that's another guy with a lot of size too. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity here for Brady. The big thing, I think the Buccaneers have done everything really well so far, is obviously you talked about it on the last show. The offensive tackle help is going to be necessary. There's still some, they can get a veteran like a Jason Peters, Andrew Whitworth, who's a little up there in age, but still a pretty good pass blocker at the tackle position, and still draft a guy like.
Just not to interrupt. Andrew Whitworth did get re-signed to a 3-year deal by the Rams. So.
Oh, did he get re-signed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but a guy like Jason Peters is still available, and then who's the other? And then they can draft a guy like Tristan Wirfs also to wait in the wings of Jarrett Willis or whatever. That's definitely the option they're going to have to go, but a lot of positive movement so far for what the Buccaneers have done this offseason.
Yeah, it's, again, the tackle position, that's something that definitely has to be brought up. I do think drafting one seems to make the most sense. That's where I'm at, and I feel like we can, I think the receiving position is clearly two guys that I'm a homer, but I would say are both in the top 5 right now, how good they played last season. And on top of all this, I think that at least top 10, yeah. Again, it could be debated, but yeah. Here's my thought with this, is that there's a lot of things that can't go wrong. Brady is going to be 43 next year. There's a lot of things that are worrying in a sense, but I'm just going to let myself get excited about this decision, about bringing in Tom Brady. And you know what? Sports are about fun at the end of the day, and there's really no more fun move than bringing on a 6-time Super Bowl champion onto your team. I don't know if it's going to work. I do think I said I wanted to keep Jameis at the time, but again, it's just like we have an actual chance to win the Super Bowl right now, which is not something I would have said before this signing. I'm not saying we're like the favorites or anything, but there is a chance there. People are talking about it. I think that we still have some problems, but I do think that having a quarterback who isn't going to throw 30 interceptions will help. Now, I want to transition just a little bit, to now it looks like the Patriots are going to be starting Jarrett Stidham. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. I thought it was a great decision by the Patriots to draft him in a late round. Kyle, what are your thoughts about them moving forward with Stidham?
I don't know how I feel about Stidham per se. I think that Auburn offense isn't really translatable to the NFL. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of reports out of camp that they're really high on him. I'm not necessarily sure I believe that, because they were high on Ryan Mallett. I think that a lot of it is just trade chip kind of pieces. But the one thing that I do think that they're going to constantly bring in a quarterback until they find the next franchise guy. Belichick's not going to be the guy to wait around. There's going to be opportunities for, you're going to pay really cheap for a guy like Andy Dalton potentially, a guy like Cam Newton potentially. You can get at a really cheap price. I'm not sure Stidham's going to be the guy to start going into next season. But, right now he's there, and we'll see what happens. But there's plenty of options to bring in. I guess overall, if I were to grade the Patriots free agency, I would still kind of put it as a to be determined, because if any team actually thrives in week 2 of free agency, it's the New England Patriots. This is a team
Mhm.
that always brings in the value players in that second week when everyone's value is really low, and there's going to be opportunities. Guys like Brashard Perriman, Robbie Anderson, all these guys are still unsigned, and they're going to be able to maybe try and grab a couple of these guys, open up some cap space, and get some of these guys. Um, but I'm not necessarily going to say that we're going to be successful without Tom Brady, because I don't really believe in the notion that the system is good enough to withstand without Tom Brady. Um, you know, Everyone points to that 11-5 season with Matt Castle, but they're 18-1 the year before, so that means he was 7 wins worse than what Tom Brady was. They played I believe it was the NFC West and the AFC West that year in 2008, and I think it was that year that the NFC West and AFC West had no teams over 500. All 8 teams were all under
Okay,
500.
gotcha.
So, that 11-5 season was kind of a fluke, and also something that probably isn't like true to how good that team actually was. And like I said, that team was undefeated the year before and lost 5 wins off of it. So I think Brady is still the greatest quarterback of all time, and that's going to be really hard to replicate. Uh, we'll see what happens. We'll see who they bring in as a franchise guy. I kind of rambled on that one, but
It's okay. No, I think actually, could you go 5 more minutes on the Patriots 2008 season? I think that we no.
Oh yeah.
But no. Listen, and I also feel like there's something like weird about like I don't consider myself like a Brady fan or a Brady hater. I've always kind of sat in the middle. I've including the Patriots. I've never really hated them. I've always kind of had the mindset of, hey, they beat the Saints. They didn't beat the Saints, but they beat the Falcons and they beat the Panthers. And so why would I complain about them? They've helped my team out. But at the same time, I have also like I can't backtrack and pretend like I haven't said things like I'm not going to sit here and definitively say he's the greatest of all time. I think that there's other guys you could make the argument, not to saying that they are better, but I kind of hate the absolute that gets brought in with Brady. Like Dan Marino threw for 48 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in 1984. So I think there's some things you could talk about, but again, it's just like he's such an icon in the New England Patriots to leave. At the end of an era. And Kyle, I know you're a Patriots fan. Also, the Hook Cam, who makes videos on here on Jackson Kruger Sports, he's a big Patriots fan. Uh, there is something about a neutral fan that kind of wants to see the New England Patriots crash and burn. I think that just for all of the young Patriots fans that don't know what it's like to have to sit around for, I mean, the Bucs have never had a quarterback, so there's kind of just that like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that it is going to be a rebuilding project. I'm not going to say we're going to be competing for Super Bowls for the next 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
with or without Brady. I think we have an infrastructure that we can actually rebuild rather quickly and still be a competitive football team. I think people writing us off as probably a 6 or 7 or 8 win team this year. I don't think looking at everything that the Patriots have, we still have one of the best defenses in football. People are saying that we want to tank for Trevor Lawrence. I don't necessarily agree that that's ever going to happen. So I think the Patriots are going to be fine. I think Brady is also going to be fine. And sadly, take a logical approach to this. Both the Brady and the Patriots are really good, and both are going to be perfectly fine going forward.
Yeah, I mean that is like I think the depth of the Patriots has been greatly exaggerated. Their offense wasn't what won them games last year. I think they're definitely still a playoff team in my mind. But let's now, again, slight transition here. You said that you thought that this free agency is to be determined. I kind of feel like this has been a pretty bad free agency for New England. I feel like they've lost a laundry list full of players. Definitely from a just like an emotional standpoint, I'm sure Patriots fans are devastated. But also, I mean, I'm just going to list it off here. They tagged Joe Thuney and they re-signed Devin McCourtney, but they lost Tom Brady, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, Danny Shelton, Deron Harmon, and Ted Karras. I mean, they've lost like a quarter of their team.
Well, so I mean, Karras was not in line to start because David Andrews was coming back. Uh,
Sure.
you know, I didn't think Danny Shelton. I thought he was fine, but overall, Adam Butler was the better defensive tackle anyway, and getting more of the reps. If they can
Mhm.
bring Adam Butler back, that's probably a better option. Um, Van Noy, I mean, I'm a huge Kyle Van Noy fan, and Belichick's been a huge fan of his for a lot of years. Basically, for his high IQ, he doesn't do anything that wows you, but he just makes a lot of really smart football plays. And the issue is going to be replicating that ability on the field. But overall, I mean, $30 million guaranteed. Like, I don't know. The Patriots were never going to pay $30 million guaranteed. And Jamie Collins, we got for essentially nothing. And I don't think anyone was really hyping him as a big free agent signing or big signing last offseason. And now it's a big deal that he's gone. I think that position's replicable. And
No, I
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say no. I think that I think that like from the sense of like I understand why they didn't stick with any of these select guys, but at the same time, I do kind of feel like you're losing two linebackers who were very good for you last year. Uh, and you're losing your quarterback, and the only thing you did was re-sign a couple of guys. I don't see how this. I don't think it's necessarily a disaster. Like I said, no team is better at finding guys that nobody thought would be good and then turning them into studs. So the jury is still out in the sense of I still think they can be good, but in terms of just what we've seen so far, I do feel like this has to be, if we're saying either win or loss, I feel like it has to be a loss.
That's fair. We could put it at a loss for now. I mean, the thing is like if they get a couple good linebackers for really cheap this next week, and if they get maybe I do think the secondary needs to get a little younger, and that's probably what they'll address in the draft in the first round, because we rarely take skill position guys in the first round, and I can't see us doing it for 3 straight years now. Um,
Kind of,
so
yeah. Because they also
yeah, so
drafted the tackle.
right,
Yeah,
yeah. Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michelle that year, and then N'Keal Harry this past season.
right.
Um, I don't see us taking another receiver in the first round, and I think that's going to be kind of like a Xavier McKinney kind of spot. But overall, if they get a couple good linebackers, this defense is still going to be pretty good this next year. I would still say it's probably top 10 in the league. Um, so I'm not overly worried about the defense overall, and just off of being healthier, Mohamed Sanu is going to get another year in the system. N'Keal Harry is going to be healthy, hopefully out of the gate. This offense, not because of Brady's fault, this offense might actually be better because James Devlin's going to be back. David Andrews is going to be back. Isaiah Wynn's going to be healthy. Those receivers I listed, this offense could be better even without Brady because our offense wasn't very good last year. And I don't think it was Brady's fault that we were bad last year. So I think there's plenty of opportunities for this team to be really good again next year and still be 10, 11 wins.
Yeah, no, I don't actually disagree with any of that. I think the real reason that the Patriots struggled last year was because of injuries. Like, I think that the best thing to happen to them going into 2020 is just being healthy. So, I think that I think we can adjust here. We can go on to let's go just to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This has to be just an obvious win, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is an A to me. We talked about last week that the franchise tag is kind of built for a guy like Shaq Barrett because, you got to make sure he proves it another year before you're willing to shell out all the cash. So this is a prove it year for Shaq Barrett. And, that defensive line, that defensive front's going to be pretty good for them. I really I think I saw Pro Football Focus had them as the 11th ranked team despite despite the 7-9 record. And I think a lot of that had to do with A, their offense turned the ball over a lot, and B, that secondary was borderline atrocious up until like halfway through the season. They got a lot better. So I
Mhm.
think that's a big win for this team. I think that secondary really improved, and they're going to be pretty good. At the very least, Brady, Winston had more interceptions last year than Brady had in the last four
Right.
seasons combined. So I think having Brady in that position, at least you're taking care of the ball at the very minimum. And
Mhm.
that interior line's pretty good. There's a lot of people talking about they need a running back. I didn't hate Ronald Jones. I think he's fine. I think they're going to need a guy who's better in pass protection as like the secondary back, like a Chris Thompson type maybe. But overall, I think it was pretty fine having him there with those weapons at receiver. This is a big win for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and another thing, they re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul, who when he came back after, I believe it was after week 8, it was around there. That was also just around a time when their defense really improved. It was also when they ditched Vernon Hargraves and let Jamel Dean become their starter, and he really thrived. So yeah, again, it's kind of just a lot of it is just young players getting better. But in terms of just the free agency, they did lose Carl Nassib, who I do think will hurt. He was a great rotational player. But as a whole, I mean, getting a new quarterback and then re-signing a couple of really good pass rushers, it's a win for me. I am doing what I do every offseason and getting way too optimistic over my team, and I'm sure it will result in disappointment, as it usually does. But you know what? I'm a Buccaneers fan, and I'm used to it.